It was a bright, sunny morning in the city, and the small cafe in the park was already buzzing with people. Birds chirped in the trees above, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh flowers. The air had that soft warmth that made people want to sit outside and watch the world pass by. At a small corner table, away from the crowd, sat a man in his early 40s. He wore a neatly tailored suit that seemed to reflect the sunlight, and his posture was calm yet confident. His eyes, however, held a certain distance, a quiet sadness that only a few might notice. He sipped his coffee slowly, watching people move about, yet not really seeing them. The man was known to many as a billionaire, someone whose wealth could change the world. Yet he moved through life as though surrounded by walls only he could see. People admired him, envied him, and often wanted a piece of his world, but few ever got close. He had learned early on that money and success could create barriers that were invisible yet strong. Today he had decided to take a quiet morning for himself, a rare break from meetings, contracts, and phone calls. It was supposed to be a time to think, to breathe, to exist without expectation. Across the cafe, a young woman walked hesitantly. She had a soft smile, and her eyes were bright with curiosity. Her clothes were simple, yet they carried an effortless grace. She carried a small bag over her shoulder, worn from use, but it was clear she took care of her belongings. She paused for a moment, taking in the scene, and then her gaze landed on the man sitting alone. There was something about him that made her heart quicken. Perhaps it was his calm presence, or maybe it was the subtle melancholy in his expression. Whatever it was, she felt a strange pull to approach. For a few moments she hesitated. She was not used to approaching strangers, especially not someone who seemed so far above her world. She took a deep breath, adjusted her bag, and walked toward the table. Her steps were careful but determined, and she tried to keep her hands from trembling. When she reached him, she cleared her throat softly. "Can I join you?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. The billionaire looked up, slightly startled. No one usually approached him like this. He studied her for a moment, noticing the quiet strength in her eyes, the warmth in her tone. There was no expectation, no judgment, just a simple request. It was disarming. "Of course," he replied, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. His voice was calm, but inside he felt a strange flutter, a curiosity that he hadn't felt in years. She smiled and sat down, placing her bag carefully beside her. For a few moments they simply watched the world around them. People passed, some in a hurry, some laughing with friends. The sounds of chatter, the clinking of cups, and the soft rustle of leaves filled the air. There was a quiet comfort in the shared silence, a gentle rhythm that neither wanted to break. After a while he spoke. "It's unusual for someone to sit with me without a reason. Most people are here for business or they want something." She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe I just wanted some company," she said softly. "It's been a long time since I sat and just watched the world with someone else." Her words struck him more than he expected. He had spent so much of his life surrounded by people who wanted from him, who saw him as a means to an end, that he had almost forgotten what it was like to simply connect. Her presence, her honesty, and her courage to sit with him without expectation were like a breath of fresh air. They began to talk, first about small things, the weather, the park, the simple beauty of the morning. She spoke with a warmth and clarity that made even the billionaire feel at ease. She laughed softly at little observations, and he found himself smiling more than he had in months. There was a simplicity in her words, a genuine curiosity about life that reminded him of things he had long overlooked. As they continued, she shared a little about herself. She was studying, working odd jobs to support herself, and dreaming of a life where she could explore the world, learn new things, and help others. There was no pretense in her story, no embellishment. She spoke with honesty, and that honesty was rare in his world. He listened, captivated not by her words alone but by the spirit behind them. He told her a little about himself, careful not to overwhelm her with his status or wealth. He spoke instead of his own struggles, of the loneliness that often accompanied success and the constant pressure to maintain appearances. She listened intently, her eyes never leaving his, and for the first time in a long time he felt truly heard. It was as if someone had opened a window in his life and let in sunlight he had forgotten existed. Time passed unnoticed. The sun climbed higher, casting soft shadows on the cafe tables. People came and went, but they remained in their small world, a bubble of quiet connection amid the chaos around them. He found himself asking questions he hadn't asked anyone in years, wanting to understand her thoughts, her dreams, and even her fears. She responded with a gentle honesty, and in those answers he found both comfort and inspiration. There was a moment when she hesitated, looking down at her hands. "I don't usually do this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Approach someone I don't know. But something about today, I just felt like I should." He nodded, understanding completely. "I'm glad you did," he said softly. "I don't get many chances to meet people like you. People who remind me of what life is really about." Her smile returned, small but radiant. It was a smile that carried resilience, hope, and a quiet joy that made the morning feel even brighter. He realized in that moment that her presence was already changing him, making him see the world differently, even if just a little. They continued talking, moving from simple observations to deeper thoughts. She asked him about his life, and he shared carefully, revealing glimpses of the man behind the wealth and fame. She listened without judgment, only curiosity and empathy. There was no awe, no envy, only genuine interest. And that made him feel valued in a way that money could never buy. At one point, a breeze carried the scent of flowers to their table, and they both paused to inhale it, laughing softly at the shared appreciation of something so simple. It was a small moment, yet it felt monumental to him. He realized that he had missed these kinds of experiences, the small joys, the quiet connections, for far too long. As the morning progressed, he noticed the way people watched them occasionally, curious glances from strangers who wondered why a billionaire was sitting with a young woman so casually. He ignored them, focusing instead on the conversation and the feeling of normalcy it brought. For the first time in years, he felt like he wasn't defined by his wealth or his status, but simply by who he was in that moment. She asked him about his dreams, and he hesitated, thinking about a life filled with responsibility and expectation. "I suppose," he said slowly, "my dream is to find something real, something that isn't measured by success or money, a connection that matters, a moment that feels true." She looked at him with understanding, her eyes reflecting a wisdom beyond her years. "I think we all want that," she said softly, "even if we don't always know how to find it." Her words lingered in his mind long after they were spoken. There was a simplicity to them, a truth that resonated deeply within him. He realized that despite the differences in their lives, despite the walls that society had built around them, there was something profoundly human connecting them. By the time she finally stood to leave, the sun had climbed high into the sky. She smiled, a mixture of gratitude and hope, and said, "Thank you for letting me join you. I really needed this." He watched her walk away, feeling a pang he hadn't expected. Her presence had left an imprint on him, a reminder that life was richer when shared, when experienced with openness and honesty. He sat back in his chair, sipping the last of his coffee, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of something he hadn't felt in years: hope, connection, and a quiet sense that his heart might just be ready to open. The day after their unexpected meeting at the park cafe, the young woman could not stop thinking about the man she had spoken to. His calm presence and gentle words lingered in her mind, and for some reason she felt that he had noticed her in a way no one else had. The world could be harsh, and she had learned to stay cautious. But the memory of that morning brought a warmth that she couldn't ignore. She walked through her small apartment, tidying the few things she owned. Her life was simple, filled with long hours at work and studies, but she held dreams that stretched far beyond her surroundings. She wanted to explore, learn, and create a life that was meaningful. Yet she often felt invisible in a world that moved too quickly to notice people like her. Meeting him had been different. There had been no judgment, no assumptions, only a conversation that made her feel seen. Meanwhile, the billionaire sat in his office, high above the city, surrounded by the tools of his success. Yet the office felt empty, sterile, even cold. The meetings, the contracts, and the endless decisions weighed on him, but none of them felt as important as the quiet conversation he had shared yesterday. He found himself replaying her words, her soft laughter, the way she had looked at him with genuine interest. It was unsettling and wonderful at the same time. He realized that he had spent so long protecting himself that he had almost forgotten what it felt like to connect without an agenda. As the morning passed, he decided to find her again. It wasn't a business decision nor a social engagement. It was something personal, something he could not ignore. He remembered the name of the cafe and the park nearby. He dressed simply, leaving behind the suits and ties that symbolized his wealth. Today, he wanted to be just a person, not a title. By mid-afternoon, the young woman was sitting at a small library table, books spread around her, trying to focus on her studies. Her mind, however, kept drifting to yesterday's encounter. She had learned to be independent, to face challenges alone. But the thought of seeing him again brought a flutter of anticipation she hadn't expected. He approached quietly, careful not to startle her. She looked up and their eyes met. For a moment neither spoke, just acknowledging the strange, comforting familiarity between them. Then he offered a small smile. "Hello," he said softly. "Hello," she replied, a smile forming on her lips. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I was hoping I might," he said. "May I sit?" "Of course," she said, moving her book slightly to make space. As he sat, the library's quiet hum surrounded them. There was a peace in the stillness, different from the bustling cafe. They began to talk again, this time with more depth. She spoke about her studies, her challenges, and her dreams. She was honest about her fears, about failing, about not being enough, but she also spoke with determination and hope. He listened intently, captivated by the sincerity in her words. He shared parts of his life too, carefully choosing stories that revealed not just wealth but vulnerability. He spoke of the pressure of expectations, the loneliness that often came with his success, and the moments when he felt disconnected from the world. She listened, truly listening, and that simple act of attention made him feel more alive than he had in years. After a while, she hesitated before asking a question she had been thinking about for days. "Do you ever wonder if life could be different? If there's more to it than what we see or achieve?" He paused, considering her words. "All the time," he admitted. "I think that's what makes moments like yesterday so important. They remind us that life is more than numbers, contracts, and schedules. There's beauty in simplicity and honesty, things I often forget." She smiled a little shyly. "I think that's why I approached you. Something about you seemed real, not distant or untouchable." Her words struck him deeply. He had spent so long building walls around himself that hearing someone see past them was almost painful in its intensity. He realized that he had been yearning for connection, but he had not known how to find it. She, in her quiet way, had reminded him of what it felt like to be human. They continued talking as the afternoon passed into evening. The light in the library shifted, casting a golden glow on the books and their faces. For the young woman, it was a rare feeling of being understood, of not having to pretend or hide parts of herself. For him, it was a rediscovery of empathy, warmth, and the importance of listening. Eventually, the conversation shifted to lighter topics: music, favorite books, and little memories from their pasts. They laughed together, sharing moments that were spontaneous and genuine. It was easy, effortless, and in that ease they found a shared comfort. Neither had to impress the other. Neither had to hide behind masks. In that moment, their worlds, so different in many ways, felt closer than ever. As the library began to close, he realized he did not want the conversation to end. "Would you like to walk with me for a bit?" he asked. "The park nearby is beautiful this time of day." She agreed, and they stepped outside into the cool evening air. The city was alive with sounds of people finishing their day, the hum of cars, and the distant music of street performers. They walked slowly, talking and observing, letting the world move around them without hurry or expectation. During their walk, she shared a dream she had long kept to herself, about studying abroad, learning, and experiencing life beyond her current circumstances. She explained how difficult it was to imagine making it happen on her own, and the struggles she faced in trying to make ends meet. Her voice carried a mix of hope and resignation, a delicate balance of determination and fear. He listened quietly, feeling an ache in his heart. He knew the world could be harsh and unfair, and he felt a strong desire to support her, not with pity but with encouragement and guidance. He wanted to help her see that her dreams were not impossible, that there were paths she could take even if they seemed distant. For a long moment they walked in silence, the shared quiet filled with unspoken thoughts. He realized that he wanted to be part of her journey, not to control it but to walk alongside her. She in turn felt a sense of trust forming, a belief that he might truly care without hidden motives or expectations. As the sky turned soft shades of orange and pink, they paused at a small fountain in the park. Water danced in gentle streams, catching the fading light. She watched the water, her eyes reflecting both wonder and contemplation. He watched her, feeling an unfamiliar vulnerability stirring within him. He had experienced much in life, yet her courage, her honesty, and her simple presence were making him confront emotions he had long buried. "I'm glad I met you," she said softly. Breaking the silence, "I'm glad too," he replied, his voice quiet but full of sincerity. "More than you know." They lingered for a while, neither wanting to leave, knowing that these moments were rare and precious. Finally, as the evening grew cooler, they parted ways, each returning to their separate worlds. Yet something had shifted between them, a connection that went beyond chance, a bond that neither time nor circumstance could easily break. The young woman returned home, her mind buzzing with thoughts, dreams, and a newfound sense of possibility. She felt seen, valued, and inspired in a way she hadn't felt before. Meanwhile, the billionaire returned to his high-rise apartment, but the emptiness he had felt earlier was softened by a spark of hope. He realized that life, despite its complexities and challenges, held moments of unexpected beauty and connection. That night, as he looked out over the city lights, he thought about the young woman who had dared to approach him with a simple question. "Can I join you?" Her words had broken through his walls, touching a part of him he thought was long gone, and somewhere deep inside he knew that this was just the beginning of a journey neither of them could have predicted. A journey that promised growth, understanding, and perhaps something even more profound. A few days later, the billionaire found himself thinking more and more about the young woman. He had met countless people in his life, yet she was different. Her presence had stirred something he had long forgotten, a feeling of genuine human connection. He wanted to see her again, not out of obligation or curiosity, but because her company brought a rare sense of peace and joy. He decided to invite her to an art exhibit in the city. It was a place he often visited alone, appreciating the creativity and expression in silence. He thought she might enjoy it, though he worried she might feel uncomfortable in a world so different from her own. Still, he knew he wanted her to experience something beautiful and inspiring, and he hoped it could be a shared moment without pretense. He called her that morning, careful to sound casual. "Would you like to join me at an art exhibit today? It's nothing formal, just a few hours of seeing interesting work." She hesitated at first, uncertain if she belonged in such a place, but something in his tone made her trust him. "I'd like that," she said finally, a small smile forming. She could not explain why, but she felt drawn to spend more time with him. Later that afternoon, they met at the entrance of the gallery. The space was quiet, filled with light and shadows that played on the walls, bringing the art to life. As they moved from one exhibit to another, she noticed the subtle way he observed each piece. He was not just admiring the art. He was considering its story, its emotion, and what it revealed about the world and the people who created it. She found herself intrigued by his perspective, realizing that beneath his reserved exterior was a thoughtful, sensitive mind. They spoke quietly, exchanging opinions and observations. She described how certain pieces made her feel, and he responded with his own reflections. It was easy, natural, and without any of the judgments she often encountered in her daily life. He listened closely, and in return, she listened to him. The simple act of listening became a bridge between their two worlds, a silent acknowledgement that each person had value and insight. As the exhibit continued, they wandered into a section displaying photographs of everyday life from around the world. Images of children playing, farmers at work, and families sharing meals drew their attention. She lingered on a photograph of a girl in a rural village, her eyes full of hope despite her surroundings. "It reminds me," she said softly, "that people can find strength and joy even when life is hard." He nodded, feeling a deep connection to her words. "It's easy to forget that," he said. "I spend so much time thinking about success, plans, and outcomes that I sometimes miss the beauty and resilience and simplicity." They moved to another section, this one filled with abstract paintings. Bright colors collided on canvases, chaotic yet somehow harmonious. She laughed quietly at a painting that seemed to twist and turn in every direction. "It's like life," she said. "Confusing and messy, but if you look closely, you can find order and meaning." He smiled, impressed by her insight. "That's very true," he agreed. Sometimes I think we need to step back and just observe, rather than control or analyze everything. After spending a couple of hours exploring the exhibits, they stepped outside into the late afternoon light. The city had a golden glow, the streets alive with people moving in all directions. He suggested they take a walk to a nearby cafe, and she agreed. As they walked, the conversation turned to their personal lives. She shared stories of her family, her dreams, and her challenges. He responded with stories from his own past, not as a businessman, but as a man who had faced loss, disappointment, and the struggle to find authentic relationships. At the cafe, they ordered tea and sat by the window. She noticed the way he softened in this casual setting, the walls around him slowly coming down. He asked her about her goals, not with expectation, but with genuine curiosity. She spoke about wanting to study further, to see the world, and to make a difference. He listened carefully, offering thoughtful suggestions, encouragement, and, most importantly, belief in her potential. As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange hue over the city, he realized how much he had come to enjoy her company. Each moment with her was a lesson in patience, empathy, and understanding. He saw the world through her eyes, and it was richer, brighter, and more alive than he had remembered it being. She, too, was affected by their time together. Being with him made her feel valued and heard. She had spent much of her life feeling overlooked or underestimated, but with him there was no pretense, no judgment. He respected her opinions, celebrated her small victories, and listened when she needed to share her fears. The bond between them grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and genuine curiosity about each other's lives. After leaving the cafe, they walked along the streets, the city lights beginning to flicker on. He suggested visiting a small park nearby, a quiet spot he had discovered years ago but seldom shared with anyone. She agreed, curious to see another part of his world. The park was peaceful, a stark contrast to the bustling streets around them. They found a bench near a fountain and sat, listening to the water and watching the stars begin to appear. In that quiet moment, he asked her about her dreams again, sensing a hesitation in her voice that he wanted to understand. She spoke of her desire to study abroad, to gain knowledge and experience that could help her make a meaningful impact. She admitted the challenges she faced, including financial struggles and the fear of failure. He listened carefully, understanding the weight of her words and the courage it took to speak them. He wanted to offer help, but he hesitated, unsure how to do so without overwhelming her or making her feel indebted. Finally, he spoke gently. "I believe in your potential. Whatever path you choose, I want you to know that someone believes in you and is willing to support you, not out of charity, but because you deserve the chance to follow your dreams." Her eyes widened, a mixture of surprise, gratitude, and emotion crossing her face. She had not expected such honesty, such sincerity. "Thank you," she whispered. "That means more than I can say." They sat in silence for a while, letting the words sink in. The fountain's water reflected the moonlight, and the quiet of the park made their connection feel even more profound. In that moment, neither of them needed to speak to understand the bond forming between them. It was a bond built on shared moments, trust, and the courage to be vulnerable. As the night deepened, they eventually decided to leave, walking slowly back toward the city streets. The air was cool, carrying the scent of flowers and the faint hum of nighttime activity. She felt a sense of peace she had rarely experienced, and he felt a warmth in his heart that he had long thought lost. Before parting ways, he turned to her and said, "I hope we can continue to explore this world together, in whatever way you feel comfortable. I want to see your journey, and I hope you will let me be part of it." She smiled, feeling a mixture of excitement and trust. "I would like that," she said. "I think there's a lot we can share and learn from each other." With a gentle farewell, they went their separate ways for the night, each carrying the memory of the day and the quiet understanding that their connection was growing stronger. Both felt a renewed sense of hope, a belief that despite the differences in their worlds, there was a shared path ahead, filled with understanding, support, and the promise of something meaningful. A few days after their visit to the park and art exhibit, the young woman found herself feeling restless. She had grown attached to the moments she spent with the billionaire, but a small seed of doubt had begun to take root in her mind. She had seen glimpses of his world, one so different from her own, and she wondered if she truly belonged there. Her pride and independence made it difficult to accept help, even when offered with genuine kindness. The billionaire, too, was struggling. He could not stop thinking about her, and the thought of her feeling uncertain or distant made him uneasy. He realized he had come to care deeply, more than he had expected, and the idea of losing the connection they had formed was painful. Yet he knew that relationships required patience and understanding, and he had to respect her feelings and boundaries. One afternoon, he decided to call her, hoping to arrange another meeting. But when she answered, her voice sounded hesitant. She thanked him for calling but mentioned that she was busy with studies and work, leaving the invitation for another time. He understood, though a sense of disappointment settled in his chest. He realized he had to be careful not to push too hard. Despite this, he could not stay away. Later that week, he arranged to meet her at a community library she often visited, a place where she could feel comfortable and safe. When he arrived, he saw her seated at a table surrounded by books and notes, focused but clearly tense. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, and he noticed a flicker of anxiety in her eyes as she looked up at him. "Hello," he said softly, taking a seat across from her. "Hi," she replied, a faint smile crossing her face. "I didn't expect you to come today." "I wanted to see you," he said honestly. "I've missed our conversations." They began to talk, but the air felt different. The ease they had shared in the past seemed momentarily strained. She was guarded, careful with her words, and he sensed that she was holding back. He decided to tread lightly, offering gentle encouragement rather than pressing for intimacy. "I know life is difficult sometimes," he said, watching her closely, "but you are stronger than you realize. Even when things seem impossible, you have the ability to move forward." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and doubt. "I know you mean well," she said softly, "but sometimes it feels like your world and mine are too different. I don't want to feel like I'm intruding or that my life isn't enough." His heart ached at her words. He had not intended to make her feel that way. "You are not intruding," he said earnestly. "I admire you for who you are, not for what you have or don't have. Your strength, your dreams, your courage, they matter more to me than anything else." For a moment she seemed to relax, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. They continued their conversation, but the shadows of insecurity and doubt lingered. She asked questions about his life, his business, and his experiences, but there was an underlying caution in her tone, a fear that his intentions might not be pure. He sensed her struggle and decided to share more of himself, revealing not just the successes but the mistakes, failures, and moments of vulnerability that had shaped him. He spoke of loneliness, of loss, and of the times when he had doubted his own worth. She listened, her eyes softening, understanding that he was opening his heart in a way few people ever had. After a long while, she closed her notebook and leaned back in her chair. "I appreciate your honesty," she said quietly. "It's rare to meet someone who shares so openly. It makes it easier to trust even if I'm still scared." He nodded, respecting her honesty. "Trust takes time," he said. "And I will wait. I want you to feel safe, to know that my intentions are true." They left the library together, walking through the city streets as the sun began to set. The warm glow of the evening light softened the edges of the buildings, and the hum of the city felt less intrusive. They found a quiet park, a small oasis amid the bustling streets, and sat on a bench near a pond. Ducks glided across the water, leaving gentle ripples behind them. The conversation shifted again, this time to their hopes and fears. She spoke of her desire to study abroad, to make a difference in the world, and of the challenges that made her feel uncertain. He listened with patience and empathy, offering encouragement without imposing his own views. He wanted her to feel empowered, not indebted. "I sometimes wonder if I'm strong enough," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "If I can really make it, achieve what I want without losing who I am." "You are stronger than you realize," he said gently, "and you don't have to do it alone. I'm not offering to take over your life or make choices for you. I just want to walk beside you, support you when you need it, and celebrate your victories with you." Her eyes glistened and she looked away for a moment, collecting her emotions. "It's hard to believe," she said softly. "I've been used to facing challenges alone and accepting help. It feels unfamiliar." He reached out, placing a comforting hand on hers. "It's okay," he said. "You don't have to rush. I will be here and I will respect your pace. What matters is that you trust yourself and the path you want to follow." For a long while they sat in silence, watching the water reflect the fading light. The moment was peaceful, a shared understanding that went beyond words. In that quiet, they both felt the weight of their unspoken emotions, the growing bond that neither could ignore. As night fell, they walked back toward the city streets, the lights casting a soft glow on their path. She felt a mixture of relief and anticipation, knowing that her feelings were real but also aware of the challenges ahead. He felt a similar mix, knowing that his heart was opening in ways he had not anticipated, and that protecting it required patience and care. Before parting, he gently reminded her, "Whatever you choose, whatever path you take, I believe in you, and I will be here, whenever you need someone to believe with you." She smiled, a combination of gratitude and emotion, and nodded. "Thank you," she said softly. I will remember that." As they went their separate ways, both carried a sense of hope and connection. The day had been filled with challenges and uncertainties, yet it had also been a testament to trust, patience, and the courage to be vulnerable. They each understood that the road ahead might not be easy, but they were willing to face it together, one step at a time. The young woman returned home, her mind filled with reflections on trust, courage, and the growing bond with someone who genuinely cared for her. She felt a sense of reassurance knowing that she was not alone in her journey, and that support could come without conditions or expectations. The billionaire returned to his high-rise apartment, the city lights twinkling below him. He thought about the young woman, her strength and the courage she displayed even in moments of doubt. He realized that his heart had opened in ways he had never anticipated, and that the connection they shared was more valuable than any success he had ever achieved. Both felt the weight of uncertainty, yet also the promise of growth and understanding. The bond between them had been tested by doubts and fears, but it had endured. And in that endurance, they found a deeper appreciation for each other, a recognition that true connection required patience, honesty, and the courage to trust. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between the billionaire and the young woman grew stronger. Each meeting, each conversation revealed more about their hearts and dreams. They had faced moments of hesitation, fear, and doubt, yet every step forward deepened their connection. Both realized that their worlds, though different, could intertwine through understanding, patience, and care. One afternoon, he invited her to a quiet riverside area he often visited to think and find peace. It was a place filled with calm waters, soft grass, and the gentle hum of nature. She arrived carrying a small notebook she used to jot down her thoughts and ideas. The setting was simple yet beautiful, far from the grandeur of his usual world, which made her feel at ease. "Thank you for inviting me here," she said softly. "It's peaceful. I thought you might like it," he replied, his voice gentle. "It's a place where I come to reflect, and I wanted to share it with you." They sat together on the grass, watching the water ripple under the afternoon sun. For a while neither spoke, simply enjoying the quiet. Finally, she opened her notebook and began to share her dreams more openly. She talked about her studies, her desire to help others, and the life she hoped to build. Her words were filled with hope, yet tinged with uncertainty, as she wondered if her dreams were truly attainable. He listened with patience, offering encouragement and perspective. "Your dreams are possible," he said. "I see your determination, your courage, and the way you think about others. Those qualities will carry you further than you know. And I want to help, not because I have to, but because I want to support you." Her eyes widened slightly, touched by his sincerity. She had not expected such genuine support, and it gave her strength. "Thank you," she whispered. "It means a lot to know someone believes in me." They spent hours walking along the riverbank, talking about life, sharing stories, and discovering small joys in their surroundings. He showed her the beauty of patience, the importance of being present, and the value of honest connection. She, in turn, reminded him of the simple pleasures he had long forgotten, the wonder in observing life without expectation or judgment. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, he stopped and turned to her. "There's something I want to say," he began, his voice soft but steady. "These past weeks have shown me something I didn't expect. I realize now that life is richer when shared with someone who truly understands and cares. You've reminded me of what it means to be human, to feel deeply and to connect without walls. I care for you more than I can express." Her breath caught in her throat. She had felt the connection, the growing affection, but hearing it spoken aloud stirred emotions she had not anticipated. I feel the same, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. I've been afraid to hope, afraid to let someone in, but I trust you. I care for you too. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between the billionaire and the young woman grew stronger. Each meeting, each conversation revealed more about their hearts and dreams. They had faced moments of hesitation, fear, and doubt, yet every step forward deepened their connection. Both realized that their worlds, though different, could intertwine through understanding, patience, and care. One afternoon, he invited her to a quiet riverside area he often visited to think and find peace. It was a place filled with calm waters, soft grass, and the gentle hum of nature. She arrived carrying a small notebook she used to jot down her thoughts and ideas. The setting was simple yet beautiful, far from the grandeur of his usual world, which made her feel at ease. "Thank you for inviting me here," she said softly. "It's peaceful. I thought you might like it," he replied, his voice gentle. "It's a place where I come to reflect, and I wanted to share it with you." They sat together on the grass, watching the water ripple under the afternoon sun. For a while neither spoke, simply enjoying the quiet. Finally, she opened her notebook and began to share her dreams more openly. She talked about her studies, her desire to help others, and the life she hoped to build. Her words were filled with hope, yet tinged with uncertainty, as she wondered if her dreams were truly attainable. He listened with patience, offering encouragement and perspective. "Your dreams are possible," he said. "I see your determination, your courage, and the way you think about others. Those qualities will carry you further than you know. And I want to help, not because I have to, but because I want to support you." Her eyes widened slightly, touched by his sincerity. She had not expected such genuine support, and it gave her strength. "Thank you," she whispered. "It means a lot to know someone believes in me." They spent hours walking along the riverbank, talking about life, sharing stories, and discovering small joys in their surroundings. He showed her the beauty of patience, the importance of being present, and the value of honest connection. She, in turn, reminded him of the simple pleasures he had long forgotten, the wonder in observing life without expectation or judgment. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, he stopped and turned to her. "There's something I want to say," he began, his voice soft but steady. "These past weeks have shown me something I didn't expect. I realize now that life is richer when shared with someone who truly understands and cares. You've reminded me of what it means to be human, to feel deeply and to connect without walls. I care for you more than I can express." Her breath caught in her throat. She had felt the connection, the growing affection, but hearing it spoken aloud stirred emotions she had not anticipated. I feel the same," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been afraid to hope, afraid to let someone in, but I trust you. I care for you too." Relief and warmth spread across his face. For a long time he had guarded his heart, fearing that connection would bring disappointment or pain. Yet in her presence he found courage and reassurance. They shared a quiet moment, feeling the significance of their words and the depth of their bond. Over the following days, they began to spend more time together, exploring the city, sharing meals, and enjoying quiet evenings filled with conversation and laughter. Their interactions were not defined by wealth, status, or expectation, but by genuine interest, respect, and care. Each shared experience brought them closer, strengthening their trust and deepening their understanding of each other. One evening, as they walked through a quiet street lined with trees and soft lights, she shared a personal story about her childhood, about struggles she had faced and the resilience she had learned to cultivate. He listened intently, appreciating her honesty and the courage it took to reveal such personal details. He shared stories of his own past, not as a businessman, but as a man who had faced loneliness, loss, and the challenge of finding authentic connections.